This is Ingrid with Care Tootie, and welcome to days 13, 14, and 15 of the Bible writing plan. Today's theme, or for the next couple days, is going to be waste not, want not. So I don't know that I've said it to you guys before. Maybe I mentioned it in the first video, but I want to encourage you to keep all your scraps. Even if they're teeny tiny, you're going to see today, we are going to use them. So if you're looking at that printable and you're confused, what I did was I put 3 of the same image on one page because I love that design, and then I printed it. But Nanda does not have that in her shop. Now that that's out of the way, what I was saying about the scraps is I encourage you to keep a folder or a pile or a little bin or something and keep all of your scraps together as you have them. You're going to see that I'm going to use even teeny tiny pieces. So if you are following me over on Instagram and you watch my stories, I asked what I should do about the binding, because originally this was supposed to be a tan insert and I thought I was going to keep it flat because I was using copy paper instead of cardstock and I'm using flat elements. Anyways, that is not the case. I am adding bulk like crazy. So today what I decided to do was to add a pocket here, and then I'm going to do 3 days at one time. In hindsight, now that I've done it, it still added a lot of bulk because there's 3 tags, and of course I added clusters to them. But anyways, the idea was there. I will go ahead and ask you here though, in case you're not following me on Instagram, do you have any ideas of what I should do? Should I tear the book apart and add a different spine to it? Or should I just add some ribbon and just go as I go and we'll just see what happens? Let me know down below. So here I pulled out anything that I thought. I wanted to kind of work on this spread kind of quickly today, and I pulled out anything that I thought might go. And I'm going to try to quotation shop in this little section and try not to go outside of it. And I think I do a pretty good job of it. If you want to try this technique out with me, what I would suggest that you do is pull out pieces that you think are going to go together, but don't give it too much thought. I literally just pulled stuff and like a mad person, you saw how I dropped them on the table there. That's how fast I did it. And so that's what I would recommend that you do, and especially pulling out little scraps, because in this case, I'm using really small pieces. Oh, I also wanted to point out, do you see the cards that I'm using? They are like, what is that thing called from from a long time ago? The Dewey Decimal System, something like that. There's something like that. I think they're from a real estate office, and they are typed out and they have like numbers. It's some kind of catalog system. Anyways, I've been holding on to them, and I have a box of tags somewhere in my house that I had ordered from Amazon, and I cannot find them. And so I was trying to hurry up with the design, and so they came out, and I'm so happy that I'm finally using them. Okay, so back to the design. So I grabbed some strips of paper, and I think I have 3 there, and then I used those little square digi images that Nanda has, and I just layered them kind of haphazardly. I added that little black and white, I think it's a Maggie Holmes paper, just to add some I guess stabilization. I feel like when you add black and white, especially when you're using a lot of colors, it grounds it. And so that's what I do here. And I'm just going to attach it all using my tiny attacher from Tim Holtz. And literally it was that easy. So if you're stuck and you don't know what direction to go in, I think I've said it already. Now this is my third video in a row, but clusters is the answer, or clusters are the answer. Yeah. And what's funny about this is I pulled those rings out and I was totally going to attach them to the top when I realized I'm trying to cut down on bulk, not add it. So I will use them, but not what I thought in the beginning, and that's okay. If you don't have a tiny attacher, then you can always just use a regular stapler. And I actually got some staples to use to show you guys what it looks like with a regular staple, but I do not have a staple gun that fits them, so I need to go get one. But the great thing about it is that then you can still fit pieces underneath. You can still manipulate your cluster and add, and that's really nice. Whereas if you just went in with just glue, it would be a little harder unless you're using a wet glue and you're working really quickly. So the glue that I'm using here, I had gotten at Dollar Tree. It's just a white school glue, not what I usually use. And actually, I think this might be one of the first project, maybe the first project I've ever used it on, but I didn't want it to go to waste. I bought it when I was out of town and I needed a glue, and I didn't want to use my very sticky glue, and so we'll see how this performs. Now, for certain things, you need a glue that is a little more, has a better adhesion. Okay, so now I am taking some Distress ink pads, and I am using that little brush, taking reinforcers and coloring them so that I get that dusty blue color that matches with the kit. I'm curious, are you a blue girl or a pink girl? I used to only be pink, but now blue is really growing on me. I am using my hole punch and just adding holes to the middle, not worrying if they are centered or not. I am going to use these really cute, I think they're like little index cards. They're really tiny. And originally I was going to use it as paper in the background, but I decided not to. And so I'm just writing 13, 14, and 15 to the front of it so that I know what day is what. Although when I go to stamp my date, I mess up and I have to fix it with a pen. But nobody saw that. Nobody knows. And it's totally okay. It's all right to make those mistakes. They are, as Bob Ross would say, happy accidents. I am taking this yellow Distress ink pad and I am just distressing those numbers a little so that they kind of melt a little more into the background. Originally, I was going to use some embroidery floss in that kind of yellowy color, but I decided just out of laziness, my floss was already there with the pink that I used on yesterday's spread, and so I'm just making these little X's on each of the numbers and trying very hard not to poke my fingers because, again, in my stories, some of you might have known, I poked myself pretty hard and I was asking if I needed a tetanus shot, which I'm still praying that I did not. It wasn't that bad, but it went through the skin. Anyways, just be careful with the needle. To add a little bit more texture and dimension, I am going to take some masking tape and just kind of rip it and place it behind the numbers so that it gives a distinction between the number and then the papers underneath. Because I am gluing down something that has some bulk to it, in this case the embroidery floss, I am going to use a stronger glue. So I would suggest either a strong glue or even double-sided tape. I want to know, have I inspired you to try clusters? And if you were holding back and maybe this video is the one that's going to take you over the edge so that you work on clusters next, I'd love to know down below. Let me know. And just when you thought, hey, I thought you said you were going to use those rings, I didn't forget. And I used my owl, or as Lori calls it, the pokey tool or pokey thingy. And I just threaded it through the hole. And then I'm adding some of the distress to the back, and I was trying to think what could go well, and I had those rub-ons that I had pulled out. So I'm just going to take one of these leaves and just varnish it onto the tag, and I love that it adds just a tiny hint of sparkle to it. Please tell me you're anything like me and you love a little sparkle. I live in Texas right now, and it's so fitting because it's very accepted here to have rhinestones and gold and stuff. And so maybe I was meant to be here. But do you like sparkle too? When I was creating Happy Mail all the time, I used a lot of this seam binding, and I used it a lot in tags, and I haven't pulled it out in a while. When I went to go get the tags, which ended up being those the card catalog cards, I found my seam binding in that cabinet, and so I decided to pull it out. What I will say, the way that I use it is I usually just mess around with it and try to make like a messy bow or just something messy with it, or I actually pull it through so that it makes a V, and then I just staple it in the middle. So that is a cute way to add a little bit of extra glitz to a tag. The tags are just about done, so what I'm going to do is keep playing music, and I will read the Bible verses that correlate with each of the cards throughout the rest of the video. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in a couple days. Day 13's verse is Colossians chapter 1, and it is verse 22, but I am going to read to you from 21. And you that were sometime alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now hath he reconciled in the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and unblameable and unprovable in his sight. Day 14's verse is Matthew 5:13. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt hath lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and be trodden under foot of men. Day 15 is Ephesians 2, verse 10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them.